why numbers are a part of your company culture. Recently, I was on a video conference call with one of the real estate teams that I consult for. And one of the leaders was expressing frustration when they were talking with their team. Their teammates had come to them and said, hey, every morning we're always going over our numbers. How many appointments do we have? What are our gross commission incomes, our revenues that are coming into the business? We're always talking about numbers. And it seems sometimes like you only care about numbers. You don't care about me. And they said, I don't understand, because this has always been part of our team and it's been something that really drives the productivity. And I think it's really, really important. This isn't just like something that I do for the sake of numbers or for the sake of my ego. It's actually really important. And the conversation that we had, I wanted to share with you, is a really important conversation that numbers are actually a part of your company culture. That numbers are really valuable in the way that they drive your business and in the way that they drive the productivity and therefore the flourishing of your people on your team. And so I want to give you kind of 3 big points to think about when you think about the numbers of your business and how you can make those a big part of your company culture. You know, a lot of us, when we think about culture, we think about, going bowling together or parties or maybe the color on the walls or something like that. But the reality is that productivity is the first and most important part of your company's culture. You see, if people have great parties but they're going broke, it really doesn't matter what your company culture is, right? If people really value the mission of your company but they're not making enough money to make ends meet, your company culture doesn't matter. Your company culture is always going to have to start with profitability and with productivity and profitability for your people. Profit and productivity are a necessary condition of your company. They aren't the purpose of your company, but they are a necessary condition, and they become really important as kind of a foundation layer for our business's cultures. Now, I want to give you 3 ideas on why numbers are so important for your business. The first is that numbers represent people, right? Numbers represent people. Now, especially if we're talking about service industries, right? Like real estate, like mortgage, like financial planning, and like insurance, when we're talking about numbers, we're not talking about numbers. We're actually talking about people, about human beings that have goals, that have things that they're interested in. In real estate, we're talking about people, families, and their homes. There's this great saying that I love, and it goes like this: statistics turn people into numbers, and stories turn numbers back into people. I want you to recognize that every number in your business represents a person, represents a human being that your business is serving. And when we serve people and we really come from a place of loving them well, we want to keep track of them. We want to make sure that they aren't forgotten. We want to make sure that they're taken care of. And I always use this simple example. My wife has this amazing system where she pulls out a calendar, she buys a brand new calendar each year, and she goes through and she writes down the birthdays of all the people that are important to her in that calendar. Now, of course, we all go, wow, that's so great, that's so loving, that's so caring, to make sure that she has a system to make sure that she remembers everybody's birthday and that she remembers them and honors them on their birthday. This is actually the exact same in our service businesses and in our sales businesses. We just do it with a database, with a computer system that keeps track of all the people. And then to make sure that the business is healthy and robust so that it can continue to take care of people really well, we keep track of how many of those people we are loving and serving and taking care of. And so this is why we need to start with this first principle, which is that numbers represent people. Second, recognize that our income and the income of every single person on our team is driven by numbers. So when I come up to, if I'm leading a real estate sales team, and I come up to one of the agents and say, how many appointments did you have this last week? That conversation is not about quotas and hitting a number and making sure that you're doing what I want you to do as the authoritarian over you. Instead, this is actually an act of love and an act of service where we come alongside our people and say, and we won't say this in every conversation, this is why it gets lost, but here's what the thinking needs to be. Hey, when we first sat down, you told me your goals. You wanted to send your kids to college, to this great college, and we did some work and reverse engineered that was going to take, $200,000 over the course of 4 years. And that you only have 10 years to make that extra money. And so then we realized that to do that, you're going to have to make, this many sales. You're going to have to sell 40 homes a year to achieve all the goals that you have, each year financially, and also be able to save for your kids' college. Now, as a result of that, right, we determined that you were going to have to go on 2 or 3 appointments per week in order to get there. So, I'm committed to helping you get your kid to college. Did you go on 3 appointments this week? Right? That's actually the long version of a conversation that shows up in our business day in and day out of how many appointments did you go on yesterday? How many appointments did you go on this last week? And this is where people get lost, is they think, oh, you just care about the numbers, you're just trying to drive a quota, you're just concerned about your bottom line as the leader, or you're concerned about maybe as a sales manager you get an override of something like that, or you have quotas that are put on you from above. And this is what people start to feel like. You only care about the numbers. And what we want to do is make sure as leaders that we revisit our people's goals, the dreams that our people have, and why those numbers are actually connected to bigger ideas than just, a number. And every one of our people work for you for just one reason. Everyone who works for you for one reason. Their reason. And so here's the deal. You've got to figure out what their reason is that they're willing to work with you. And then go out and help them achieve that goal. Remember, everybody works for you for just one reason, but you have to figure out what that reason is. Here's the third reason that we want numbers to be a part of our business culture. Numbers are a part of our business culture because numbers represent reality. Everybody that we work with is human. They have ups, they have downs, right? Every one of you wakes up and some days you feel great and some days you don't. And it's sometimes hard to determine what's going to dictate whether you feel great or not. And numbers become a way to evaluate reality without the baggage of our feelings, which are so variable and so fickle. Numbers represent reality. So see, here's what's fascinating, is a lot of times people feel beat up by the numbers. Oh, I walked in here feeling great, but then you asked me how many appointments I had, and I didn't have any, so I feel badly. Well, the reality is maybe you shouldn't have felt so great because you didn't have any appointments, which means a few weeks from now, a few months from now, you're not gonna be making any income. And that scares me. Maybe you should be a little worried about that. Or maybe the opposite. Somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I'm dragging, I don't feel good, I'm a loser, I don't feel good at this. I know I've never had thoughts like that, but some people have told me, right? Of course, I'm kidding. Every one of us has those thoughts. And yet what we can do is say, but you went on 2 appointments last week. I just had this experience with some clients that I coach who called me up and they're like, oh, we feel terrible. And then I said, well, tell me one good thing that did happen this week. Oh, well, we put 2 deals in escrow and we've got 2 more listings that are coming up this week. I said, whoa, slow down. This is something you should feel really great about. So let's review. When we think about our business culture, we don't want a culture that's all about numbers. We actually want a culture that's about people. But it's going to be built on a foundation of numbers. And making numbers a big part of your company culture is going to serve your people. It's one of the best ways to love your people is to focus on their numbers. Why do we do that? Because numbers represent people. 2, because their income, your income is driven by numbers. And 3, numbers represent reality. It allows us to get our feelings out of the way. These are 3 reasons to make your numbers of your business the foundation of your company culture.